Shalom ladies, Most High in Christ bless you all. My name is Sadai, and today we'll be talking about belly binding. So what is belly binding? Belly binding is the process of wrapping the postpartum belly about 2 weeks after a cesarean and about 2 to 4 days after a vaginal birth, just depending on how the mother's body is healing and how her body is feeling. Although belly binding is well known for postpartum care, it's not confined only to just postpartum care alone. So we're going to touch on all of that in this video. There are many types of belly binding techniques. If not every culture, most cultures have their own variation of what belly binding is. So with that said, later on in the video, we're going to be demonstrating how to do the Bing Kong belly binding technique and the womb wrapping belly binding technique. So stay tuned for that. So where can you find these wraps? If you go to Google, Amazon, Etsy, you'll find these wraps if you type in the name of the wrap. But what I will say about the Bing Kong wrap is that these wraps are traditionally made for smaller framed women. Therefore, if you are a bigger framed woman, it will not cover your whole abdominal area as it would for a smaller framed woman. So what I will say are some good measurements for this fabric. It would be 18 to 23 yards long and about 8 inches wide. Of course, think about your body size and how it'll fit you. Traditionally, it's made with about 15 yards long of fabric and 6 inches wide of fabric. So again, just consider your body type and go from there. You can always make it you can always make it yourself. So what you will look up is muslin cloth, and then again with those same measurements, 18 to 23 inches long, or 23 yards long and about 8 inches wide. As far as the womb wrap, also known as the prenatal wrap, you can use what is called a jersey fabric, and you can also use the baby carrier wraps, like the baby carrier. You can use that as long as it's 6 yards long and about 22 inches wide, so that it's able to cover the span of a pregnant belly. As far as getting these services done, you can always go to YouTube and find out how to do it yourself. But what I will say, if you're getting someone else to do it, to make sure this person is trained in this art, because what can happen is a certain knot or the alignment may be off, where it could be pressing up against certain organs in your abdomen, and that can mess you up. It'll hurt you more than it is meant to help you. So make sure you do your research. Of course, you can go with your local doulas. You can go to doulas out the state, doulas in the body. Just make sure they are trained and they know what they are doing. Now let's get into some belly binding benefits. Belly binding supports the womb after birth. It protects and assists swollen internal organs, adjusting them to their pre-pregnancy shape. You know how when the baby's up in there, they pushing and doing whatever they want to do? It helps bring it all back together. It helps reduce shoulder and back discomfort by supporting the torso and promoting proper posture. Have y'all ever heard of the nursing slouch, where women will, like, while they're nursing, they're like bent over to help support instead of using those muscles and holding that baby with the proper posture? Belly binding helps support that proper posture. It pulls in the separated abdominal muscles, also known as diastasis recti. It relieves water retention, improves circulation. It breaks down fat and cellulite. It relieves muscular and tendon tension throughout the torso. It stabilizes loosened ligaments. And lastly, it reduces postpartum bleeding. When can belly binding be used? Like I mentioned before, there are many different techniques to belly binding. Some techniques can be used while sleeping. Some techniques can be used prenatally. Some techniques can be used postpartum. Some techniques can be used way later years down the line after you've given birth. It just all depends on which technique you're using. Now, as I've mentioned before, women who have had C-sections have to wait a certain time frame before they're able to do the Bing Kong belly binding technique. So you want to be very careful with that, because again, depending on how that woman's body is healing will depend on the time frame in which she's able to do the belly binding. Women who have had fresh C-sections can use the prenatal belly binding technique, but very gently, very sparingly, not too harsh, because again, that's a fresh cut, so you don't wanna tamper with it too much. Also, women with IUDs, if they're experiencing bloating, inflammation, discomfort with that IUD, they're not a good candidate for belly binding. Until that swelling and bloating has subsided, you kind of want to shy away from putting pressure on that area. So with that, let's get into these demonstrations.
First, we'll be demonstrating how to do our prenatal wrap, also known as our womb wrap. Now, this is primarily used for mothers who are later on in their pregnancies experiencing a lot of back pain, a lot of bad posture. This just helps support that pregnant belly. Now, if you're using a baby carrier, it'll automatically come with a tag that indicates the middle of the fabric. But if you're just using a cutout jersey fabric, find the middle of your fabric and place it in the middle of that belly. Now, when wrapping, you want to be very, very mindful and careful to not have the edge of the fabric pressing against the bladder, sitting right up under the belly. You want to make sure that the edge of the fabric is sitting below the pubic bone, so that it's more comfortable and it's not pressing up against anything. So as demonstrated here, just make sure it's below the pubic bone. Now, what you want to do is crisscross the fabric parallel to the spine, pressing up against the sacrum, so that that lower back pain will be relieved. And please, please, please make sure that your crisscrosses are down the middle of your back, so that it won't be pressing up against anything on one side or on the other. Just making sure everything is parallel and down the middle. Now, as you can see, we're lifting the belly. Again, this is used to support that lower back and lifting that belly, helping posture. So what we're doing is lifting up that belly, and it'll look kind of rough when I'm doing it here because it's a pillow and because the pillow is moving around, so it just looks really, really rough. I promise you it wasn't that rough. We're just making sure everything is nice and secured and pulled up, and again, giving that support. That's the goal here. And if you're doing it yourself, you can kind of move around in this and feel to see, okay, is this too tight? Is this pulling up against this? Is this supporting me where it should? And just looking back at this video and making sure everything is done properly. After one full round of lifting is done on one side, you want to transition over to the next side and go the opposite direction. Again, lifting and pulling upward, lifting and pulling upward as demonstrated here. Now we are to the end of the fabric, and what you can do is crisscross it one last time and pull those two pieces around to the front, tuck them in, or you can simply just tie a loose knot toward the back. Of course, keeping it parallel and down the middle. And that is the end of your prenatal wrap.
Good vibes in the area. Well, man a fighter from the start. I mean no carry grudge in the heart. Hatred make you turn from your people. Wise up, I feel be smart. DJ, turn up the vibes from the start. Ring tune, pull it up, celebrate cause we no carry grudge in the heart. We no carry grudge in the heart. Everybody feel right. Good vibes in the place all night.
We will now be demonstrating our Bing Kong belly wrap. Starting from your pubic bone, you want to stretch your arm out straight, and that will be your top measurement. And from the bottom piece, you want to continue to hold that top piece secure and wrap around, all the way around as demonstrated here. You want to make sure your base is very secure, so make sure you pull tight and make sure you're securing that front piece in the middle of your belly button, starting from your belly button. So you want to pull really tight, and from there you want to tie a very secure knot, and from there you want to wrap that short piece around once and lift it over the shoulder. Now that you have a secure base, you want to begin wrapping, layering the piece that you are wrapping with the piece that you have previously wrapped. You don't want to have any spaces on your back, so just wrap all the way around to the front. And unlike the first piece, you're not tying a knot, but you're simply wrapping the short top piece around the long piece and bringing that short piece all the way back up to your shoulder. Now what you want to be very careful not to do is have your knots unparallel. You want to make sure they're parallel with your belly button and centered with one another. Now you just want to continue wrapping as you did with the first two. Just continue wrapping until you get all the way up to your breastbone. Something else you want to look out for is a lot of spacing, major spacing. This can be dangerous because, again, this is meant for wrapping and securing that postpartum belly, making sure everything is intact. And what you don't want is spacing, because those organs can pop out between those spaces. So you just want to make sure everything is nice, closed, and secured. To finish everything off, if you have any remaining piece, you can just go ahead and tuck it into the back of your wrap. As long as it is, just go all the way around and wrap it. Don't have any bulk of fabric in one spot. Just make sure everything is nice and flush. That is how you do your Bing Kong belly wrap. I pray this video was profitable to you all. I pray you all learned something from it and you can take something from it in your own belly binding journey. Comment down below on some facts that you may know about belly binding that I may not have mentioned. And with that, I say shalom. Most High in Christ bless you all.
Oh, but first behold in your